C99 Tutorial Part 10. In this tutorial, I want to talk about arrays. Arrays are a way of containing multiple variables into one container and giving it one name. Let's look at an example. Up to now, we've been declaring our variables all separately with separate names. For example, we've been giving integer, so let's make int a, int b, int c, and so on. Suppose I want to combine 10 integers into one name. So in that case, I could make an array of 10 integers. Now let's call the array numbers, and we'll give it 10 elements. So we write 10 in brackets. Now that we've done this, we have an array of 10 elements. The counting starts at 0, so the initial element is called numbers 0. And the last element is numbers 9. To avoid confusion, I'll call the first element the element at index 0. So let's assign number 0 a value. So I'll give it the value 57. And then numbers 1, I'll give it the value 98. And so on. I can keep doing this. I'll give all of the numbers values, all the way up to numbers 9. Numbers 9 is the last element in the array. So that's our basic array declaration. Just like variables, start with the type, and then the name, and then write brackets, and then the number of elements in the brackets. So notice something about the notation. When we give the number in brackets, when we're declaring an array, then the elements will be numbered from 0, ... all the way up to 9. Or to say more generally, if we have an array with max elements, then the indices will be numbered 0 all the way up to max minus 1. So how can we use an array in a program? Let's use an example from K&R chapter 1.6. This program counts the digits in the standard input, and it keeps track of the digits using an array. So here's the program. First thing to notice is we're using the same technique as several times before, where we use getchar and we break the loop when we encounter the EOF signal from getchar. Our array is called indigits, which is counting the number of digits. And since there are 10 possible digits, we'll use an array that has 10 elements. What comes afterwards is the initializer for the array, where we give the array elements an initial value. What's true for variables is also true for arrays. So we can declare an array, for example, we'll declare an array with 10 elements. And then this array has the elements numbers 0, numbers 1, and so on up to numbers 9. However, before we give a value to these elements, they are undefined. At this point, we define a value. We say numbers 0 equals 57. So it means 57 becomes the value of numbers 0. However, before we do this, numbers 0 has what is called an undefined value. It means we don't know. Generally, undefined values are a bad thing, so it's a good idea to initialize the arrays with a value. And the way we do that is using this braces notation. This says element 0 has this value, element 1 has this value, element 2 has this value, and so on. So we can initialize all of these elements to 0. Since there could be things other than digits, we'll make one more counter that counts the other characters in the input. So what do we do inside the loop body? Each time we have to look at the character C and see what is the value of C. We need to check whether C is a digit. We can do that with the following test. This will test whether C is in the range for a digit. Recall that each character, including the digit characters, each have a unique numeric value. The numeric value corresponds to their character encoding, usually in the ASCII table. So in other words, this test will see if the numeric value of our character is in the range of the digits. And the range is inclusive, so we're using the operators greater than equals and less than equals. That means if it's digit 0, it's true, and if it's digit 9, it's also true. And then we increment the counter. Notice how we index the array, the counter array. We have C minus character 0. So how does this work? Suppose C is some numeric value. Suppose C has the value 100. And then suppose the numeric value for the digit 0 is also 100. So that means in this case, C minus character 0, the expression in brackets would evaluate to the numeric 100 minus 100, which gives the result 0. And of course, 0 refers to the initial element of the array, in other words, the element at index 0. Consider another example. Suppose C is the character 5, and we already know that the digit 0 has the numeric value 100. Therefore, we also know that the digit 5 has 105 as its numeric value. And then the expression becomes 105 minus 100, which is 5. If the character is not a digit character, then we'll increment our other counter, and finally print the result. We can print out each digit using a for loop, and then at the end we'll print out the result from our other counter. So that's basically how the program works. Just one more thing to notice. In this program, I'm not using return from main. This time I'll use the exit function. This function basically does the same thing. To use it, you have to declare the header file stdlib.h. This is the standard library header file. Let's compile the program and see how it works. So I'm going to start my command prompt and go into the desktop, compile the program, and then run the program, count digits, and let's type a few digits. End the input with Control-Z, and then we should get a count of our digits. And it seems to be working properly. So that's the example of using an array to count digits. Let's look at one more example. In fact, we've already done this one. Previously we did this program in the chapter 1 called hello. We made this program hello.c. Let's take a look at this. In hello.c, we read the first argument passed to the command and we use it as part of our output string. argv, which refers to the command line arguments, is an array. We know that because there are brackets after it. We can also see that the type of each element is char star, which is the same as a string. Therefore, argv1 refers to element 1 of the argv array, which is a string. And that's about it for arrays. This concludes part 10 of the C99 tutorial.